gather round, people, wherever you roam, and admit that the waters around you have grown, and accept it that soon you'll be drenched to the bone.
Throughout the world, the rituals in different cultures used to prepare bodies after death vary greatly. In Western culture, a body is typically given a funeral visitation, then either buried or cremated. This is done largely to give closure to the family members and friends who were close to the deceased. In cultures around the world, different and intriguing rituals are performed, but all have the same underlying reason. The rituals help the family accept the death of a loved one and help bring the deceased closer with whatever form of afterlife they believe in. The Aborigines of Australia, Tibetan Buddhists, Malagasy people of Madagascar, and Zoroastrian people all use different, distinct rituals to honor their dead, and each of these rituals hold a similar spiritual meaning.
Now, let's head to Australia and see what the Aborigines do for their burials. Having been secluded from modern society for the majority of their ancient existence, it comes as no surprise that the native Aborigines of Australia adhere to strange traditions and rituals, with death rites being no exception. With such few contacts with the outside world, their traditions have remained untouched compared to most other cultures, whose rituals have been influenced by such Western groups as Christianity, and therefore they may seem peculiar to us. However, Aborigine death customs have been observed as early as 1909, by archaeologist R.H. Matthews. Among other things, Matthews witnessed various practices existing across the unique tribes of the jungles of Australia. For example, when a member of a community dies, his name is not spoken by anyone, out of respect for the deceased family. This includes people who are identically or similarly named as the deceased, and they must change their names as a result. Other forms of self-mourning include cutting, burning with hot coals, in order to put their emotions to rest. There are several unique forms of ceremonies done with the deceased body as well. One tribe might place round stones called kopai on and around the corpse. This is to keep the spirit from waking and wandering and disturbing the denizens of the village, much like a ghost would in American culture. Another tribe in northern Australia might place the body on an elevated platform, covering it with leaves and other dirt and sticks and stones from the forest. Body is left to decompose for several months until the flesh has rotted away. The bones of the skeleton are taken of and disposed in several ways. The family might take them and place them in the wilderness, in a cave, or in a hollowed-out tree, where they would eventually disintegrate and return to the earth. A very prevalent theme throughout the religions of Aboriginals is the belief that everything came from the earth, and all shall return to it. It is an entrance into the belief with the deities known in English as the ancestral beings, responsible for creating every animal, plant, and rock of their homeland during what's called the creation period. Now here is a visual representation of a Northern Australian Aboriginal death ritual.
Now let's travel to Madagascar to learn about the Malagasy ritual of the turning of the bones. The turning of the bones, or Famadihana, is practiced today by the Malagasy people of Madagascar. This large island is located off the southeast coast of Africa in the Indian Ocean. Millions of people on this island practice Famadihana. This tradition can only be traced back to about the mid-17th century on this island, but stems from Southeast Asia some 6,000 kilometers away. Family members will travel days on foot to attend a Famadihana, which usually lasts about 2 days. This ceremony helps connect the living with their deceased family members and is important in their culture. Famadihana can occur once every 2 to 7 years depending on the family, community, and cost. Famadihana, or the turning of the bones, is a funerary tradition in Madagascar. The festivities begin once all the family members and friends have gathered together. The family members then go to the tomb or place of burial where they pull out the corpses. Then, many different family members carry the corpses away from the tomb above their heads and eventually lay all the corpses side by side. The corpses are then cleaned, dressed in silk, and sprayed with wine and perfume. Once all the bodies are dressed, the community holds a large feast with lots of music and dancing. Family members will dance with the corpses. Some people take this time to pass family news to the deceased or even ask for advice. Music played by local bands continues to fill the air as the party comes to an end. The bodies are carried back to the tomb and then rewrapped in lambas or new cloth. Then the family members will raise the deceased back onto their shoulders and dance them around the tomb for a final time. As the dance goes on, the bodies are slowly raised higher and higher above the family members' heads. The corpses are put back into the tomb as the sun sets, and the tomb is immediately closed. There are many purposes and meanings to this ceremony. One purpose, especially if someone had recently died, is to help the family members' grief turn to happiness. The festival causes the family members to be very hands-on with the deceased, which allows them to spend time with them. This helps those who are grieving the most to more easily come to terms with it. Fama Dihana is also an act of love toward those who have died. It allows the deceased to experience all the great joys of life once again. Family members also use this time to talk with the dead. They would tell them family news and stories. Also, some women will put the silk shrouds under their mattress to induce pregnancy. Fama Dihana has recently declined mainly due to the cost to feed the large number of guests in the silk shrouds.
Now here is a representation of the turning of the bones.
Now let's head to India, where the Zoroastrian funerals are held. Zoroastrian funerals and burial traditions have been practiced for thousands of years. Zoroastrianism is an ancient religion started by the prophet Zoroaster some 4,000 years ago in ancient Iran. This religion is practiced mostly in contemporary in India, where these practitioners are called Parsis or Parsis. This religion is dualistic, recognizing the battle between good and evil in the universe and inside the conscience. The battle between these two allow the religion to focus more on being a good person rather than participating in the religion. However, this funeral ritual is extremely important to this religion and is done with the utmost care. When a person dies, according to Zoroastrian belief, the body is immediately attacked by the spirit of Angru Manu. Angru Manu is a representation of all evil in the world, and immediately tries to take over the body. The family cleans and washes the body ritually for 3 days so the spirit can escape without harm. This washing in ancient practices was done with the urine of bulls and other creatures, but this practice is no longer in use, and other forms of cleaning are used. Other factions of the religion believe that the moment the last breath is taken, the body becomes unclean. Since the body is unclean, it is believed that the body cannot be cremated or buried because it could pollute the earth or others. This leads to the creation of Dokma, or Tower of Silence, which the bodies would be laid. These huge open-ended structures are usually found in Mumbai, India. These towers are found on top of large hills, surrounded by lush forests. When the bodies are laid to rest, they are eaten by crows and vultures, and then the sun dries them out. These bones are collected and put into a central wall in the tower. The bones disintegrate and are left in the tower.
Now here is a representation of a Zoroastrian funeral.
Hashem vahu vahiste masti ushtaasti ushtamai yat ashai vahistayashe यथा हुवेर्यो अथारथु शशात चीत अच्छा वंगे उष दस्तामनंगो शोधन रांगे उष मस्ता क्षत्रंच.
Now let's take a trip to Tibet to learn about the Tibetan Buddhist sky burials. Similar to the Zoroastrian belief of returning the body to the ground, the Tibetan Buddhists believe in a similar goal. The Tibetan Buddhists practice celestial sky burials. The sky burial is typically used for more common folk of a town, while cremation is reserved for higher-ranking members of the religion, such as a lama, or teacher. In a sky burial, the body is ceremonially cut up, then laid out on a mountain. The body is then decomposed naturally through bacterial means, but primarily from birds such as vultures. In Tibet's history, most bodies were usually decomposed of in similar means, and this is thought to be where the sky burials derive from. This was most likely started out of necessity. Tibet is an area that is mainly above where any trees grow, therefore cremation of bodies was seen as a waste of materials for fire. The ground in Tibet is also permafrost, followed by a dense rock layer. Burying a body in the ground was nearly impossible, as digging a grave was far too challenging. As Buddhism began to grow in the area, this means of body disposal was also adopted by the Buddhists. Buddhist lamas began to incorporate their own ceremonial practices to these traditional burials. Rather than just placing a body on the hill, the lamas began to make certain cuts and say chants to prepare the body and allow the soul to continue on to their next reincarnation. The process of preparing a body for a sky burial involves many different, albeit gruesome, rituals. First, it is performed by a lama with the help of a roigapa, or body breaker. The lama leads the chants of a mantra around the body while also burning juniper. The roigapa is the person who physically prepares the body for the ritual. Surprisingly, it is commonplace for the roigapa to laugh and smile while preparing the body, as he would during any other daily activity. The act of smiling is believed to make the adjustment to a new life easier for the deceased soul. The way the body is prepared for the birds differs between each roigapa. For example, some bodies had their internal organs removed to make it easier for the birds to consume them, while others are left intact. In certain cases, the hair is removed from the body and kept. In all cases, however, the body is let out for the birds and other species until only the bones are left. The bones are then taken and mixed with a type of yak milk called sampa. This mixture is given to the smaller birds, such as crows, which are unable to eat with the vultures around. Although this ritual may seem disturbing to the average person, it holds a deep spiritual meaning with the Tibetan Buddhists. A central idea for all types of Buddhism is the idea of impermanence. Impermanence means that all matter in the universe is in a constant state of change, and nothing can stop it, and nothing in life is permanent. The sky burial is a perfect way for the Tibetan Buddhists to show this. The body of the deceased is returned to its most basic state through the process of cutting up the body. By being consumed by birds and processed to its very basic state, it is returned to its state of impermanence. This shows the Buddhist impermanence because the body that was once a walking, breathing person will be returned and changed back to a basic state. The process of the sky burial is also intended to help the soul of the deceased have an easier time passing on to their next life. Because the royapa is supposed to act in a happy, delightful manner while preparing the body, the soul is said to have an easier adjustment on to its next life. Death and the afterlife is one of the greatest mysteries of the entire world. This mystery has influenced every culture throughout all of time. Because of this mystery, cultures adopted practices in an attempt to prepare the body for what they believed was the answer to this mystery. These rituals differ from a burial of the body, placing stones around the corpse to ward off spirits, or dancing atop the graves of the deceased. Other rituals focus on returning the body to the earth through means of allowing animals to eat the body. As different as each ritual may seem, the spiritual meaning remains the same. The Aborigines of Australia, Tibetan Buddhist, Malagasy people of Madagascar, and Zoroastrian rituals for deceased people differ greatly, but each hold the purpose of preparing the body for their life beyond death, as well as providing closure for the surrounding community.